This breakout is a big deal. This is the biggest deal that the market has seen actually in quite some time. And right now, we don't really have a lot of resistance for Bitcoin until $107,000. We do have a couple levels to look out for. Bam, that's going to be one of them. We've got another one right here at about 100K, just as a kind of psychological level. But what you're going to find is if you just kind of look at this chart with me as I put lines down, there are a lot of levels here that you can really start to look at and expect resistance on this chart. I'm not really concerned with any of them in particular. What we understand about ranges like this, and especially chart structure like this, is that when we're coiled up for a period of time, right? Like when we're kind of looking at a chart that really, I mean, this was like closing in on 2 months here, you know, in this ascending triangle. And by the way, the ascending triangle did break out. Shout out to those of you that are subscribed to this channel, watching our content regularly. You're going to know that we were talking about that. And I was saying that, hey, I actually think this is looking pretty likely to happen here. So shout out to you guys. Absolutely sick. Smash up those likes. But right here, we were in this structure for a long amount of time. And when you enter this, you know, an area of low volatility, and you spend a long time there, and then you exit that range, you are potentially looking at extreme volatility for a period of time. I don't know how long that's going to be. It could last days or weeks or months, but that's typically what you're expecting. And I think the market has proven that to us very, very well. The last time Bitcoin was down here, it, you know, pretty much got above this level, and it was a pretty straight shot to 107K. And when we lost 107K, it was a pretty straight shot back down as well. So, you know, this is a range where we tend to make pretty quick work of our price action, and we have a ton of evidence of that also from 2024 and a little bit in 2025 as well. Just huge price swings between these ranges here. So I definitely think we're opening up to some volatility. But there's a really big question that remains on this chart right now, which is this a deviation? Is this a fake out? Okay, because if we look at this chart right here, we were consistently finding resistance at about 94,300. And now we've popped up by, let's measure this here. We've popped up by 2.22%. So we haven't quite hit some of our kind of breakout threshold rules, like 3% breakouts or 5% breakouts. And that counts for something, right? Like that is something that I think is worth keeping in mind. But still, it's a good breakout. And what we need to watch for is if we come back down to test some of these levels. Now, as far as testing these levels, I'm okay with Bitcoin coming down to 94,300. I'm even okay with Bitcoin trading anywhere inside of this range, believe it or not. And the reason I'm saying that is because I see all of this as a kind of cluster now of support. And so if Bitcoin starts falling down into this range, then it's hopefully going to do exactly what it's been doing since it set the low in November of last year. In November of last year, it was consistently punching in higher lows. And that was basically a demonstration of our support levels basically increasing. So actually, and if you've been watching this channel for a while, you probably already know what I'm going to say. I think the best thing that Bitcoin can do is come back down into this range. Now, ideally we do that when we've gotten a little bit higher. You know, we want to see 97,000. We want to see 98,000. You know, we want to get a little bit higher, 100,000 before we come back down. And that could totally happen. Okay, and that's something I want you guys to really keep in mind. If Bitcoin, you know, because we tend to view these markets in absolutes. You know, especially if we're newer in the game or for whatever reason we have like weird emotional biases and stuff like that. We're going to cut that out. Here on this channel, you're not going to have that. Don't worry about it. Really, really important. And by the way, if you want to be able to trade these markets with us right here inside of BroFi, you get direct access to me and my own tools and strategies for $100. That's it, just $100. It is $100 a month, but we're in early access, so you only have to pay once while we're in early access. We're getting weekly lives right here. Our next show very, very soon. 5 key pillars, incredible pillars that'll keep you safe in the market. Hopefully, there are no guarantees, and even joining this group it's going to carry risk, right? You can definitely still lose your money after joining this group. But we've been on it. We've seen some incredible results inside of this group. We've seen some beautiful gains inside of these market conditions, which is really nice because you really just want to take what you can get in this kind of environment. But if you want to get private access to me, if you want to be able to chop it up with us, it's basically my insiders group. See it that way. And it's still small, which is really nice. I get to spend a lot of time with you guys. Check it out with that link at the top of the description. Right there. Just letting that load up. Right there at the top of the description. And I will see you there on the other side. But bringing it back to the market here. Like I said, I can tolerate a drop into this range. It's going to basically represent support for the market. And the reason I'm willing to tolerate as low as kind of the bottom of this range is because these deviations, I mean, these back tests of support, they can get pretty sharp. Sometimes you can print pretty big wicks. Pretty big wicks, right? You can really print big wicks sometimes. So that's why I'm okay, and I wouldn't want like stop. I mean, as far as stop losses go, I might have to be a little bit more, kind of uptight with the numbers. I'm going to have to tighten those numbers up a little bit, obviously, if we're talking about like real trading figures. But as far as like tolerating price swings, yeah, I think it's fine. Obviously, we would just ideally get a little bit more movement up before coming back down. And we could totally do that. We could totally get up to, some interim resistance level, 101, 102, whatever, then come back down for support. That's fine. It's no big deal. It would be good. As long as we get something like that, it would be good. Because it really helps us maintain posture. Now, speaking of maintaining posture, traditional finance has been doing so very well. The S&P 500 is still sitting consistently, comfortably, right on the doorstep of 7,000 points here. And I definitely think that it's going to be able to break up from here. At this point, for any of these markets to look bearish to me, like genuinely bearish, you need to have some sort of spanner thrown into the works, some sort of, pandemic or something big, And I don't even think a pandemic would cut it at this point. Because we bumped straight through the pandemic in 2020. It was a little bit of fear for a couple of months while everyone was just kind of making sure that we weren't living in fucking World War Z, as the Americans would call it. We had to figure out we're gonna get eaten alive by our zombie counterparts or whatever. But we get that out of the way and the market's just fucking boomed. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think a big reason for that was online. I think it's the internet. This time it's AI. So the S&P 500 is in incredible posture. It is. It's in great posture. And I think it can break up. I think individual stocks that I'm looking at are in great posture. And I think that all of that, as I've been saying for months, for a long time, I think all of that is helping Bitcoin. Now, do I still think Bitcoin is weak? Yeah. I can say that. But let's zoom in on that a little bit. Let's really talk about what we mean when we start saying asset A or asset B is weak. I think from what Bitcoin has suffered as far as sentiment losses, as far as retail exiting, as far as the entire altcoin market getting wiped, I think for Bitcoin to have only fallen down by 36%, that's pretty decent. Yeah. And I think that if you were not invested in this market, or, if you just otherwise had less of a reason to care, I think most people would kind of line up with that attitude. An attitude that says, hey, this is a fucking digital shitcoin, essentially, because it is. Everything's a shitcoin. They're all fucking Ponzi's as well, whatever. This is like magic internet money, yeah? And it's tolerated incredible swings throughout its lifetime that make minus 36% literally look like a walk in the bloody park. Yeah? We're talking 80% in a week. Yeah, down. 80% down in a week. So absolutely incredible losses that this coin has endured. And I think in the face of that, yeah, 36% is just not that big of a deal. But you look at the sentiment, man. You look at the way people talk about these markets. You look at how people actually feel. And it's like 5 nuclear bombs detonated. Yeah. It's really insane. It really is. So I think that this market actually has done really well. Is it weak as far as, it should have been doing a lot better compared to traditional finance? Yeah, sure. But it's been outperforming traditional finance for how long? Like well over a decade? And nothing even comes close, by the way. I don't even know if Nvidia stock would have been a better. I don't think so. I don't even think it was close. I really don't even think Nvidia stock comes close, to the kind of gains that Bitcoin has produced. I don't know. I got to check the numbers on that. But you know what? Like Nvidia's like one of the crazy ones of this stock rally that we're seeing. So, with all of that in mind, Bitcoin was rallying incredibly before all of these stocks. And it makes sense that to some level, and if this is true, this is huge, to some level, it makes sense that Bitcoin may decouple a little bit from traditional finance and move to its own rhythm a little bit. It seems to be doing that. A little bit. Not enough. Ideally we want to see more. But, we're going to take what we can get. I think it's progress. And I think that if we're able to hold on to these kind of gains, if we can start flipping levels like 107, 117, what have we shown? At that point, where are we? At that point, we've produced another 36% drop. Yeah, which is actually the first 36. This is the largest drop in this entire bull cycle that we're still in. I still believe we're in it. And at that point, it's flipping important resistance levels, and its structure is going to start looking really good. It's going to start looking really good. So if that's still happening against the backdrop of the S&P, at that point, where's the S&P? 7,000, 7,200, 7,500? I don't know. And I hope that Bitcoin moves up if the S&P does as well. But, if that's what we're looking at, then we're still in an environment where assets explode. I really don't see... I need to get a bear on stream. I need to get a bear on video. If you guys know like a bear that you want, to get featured on this channel, tell them. I need to talk to a bear because I don't get it. And my job is to see it from both sides. I try, believe me, I think about this. I eat, sleep, breathe shit Bitcoin all day, every day. All I can see for the bears is that Bitcoin has performed terribly compared to traditional finance. Valid? Yes, very bad. I agree. And four-year cycle theory? Yeah, sure. I think four-year cycle theory is like pretty real as far as it looks like it happened. Like it looks real. I don't even have a valid counter argument to the four-year cycle theory. Like right now, the four-year cycle theory looks totally valid. Even with this breakout, this doesn't change. Even if Bitcoin gets to 107, the four-year cycle theory is still in play. But if Bitcoin starts flipping 107, if it starts getting above some of those resistance levels, GG, bears. GG four-year cycle, guys. At that point, this is that level that they don't want to see Bitcoin break. It's either this or 117. Really, you can even say it's the all-time high. Of course, yeah. I mean, how far do we want to take this? But 107, that is real. If Bitcoin reclaim, I gotta show you guys something here. Here, take a look at this. I gotta show you guys something. All right, if we take this chart right here, and let me go super long term with you here. Let me show you something here. Let me show you. You guys seen that meme? That guy sitting on the chair. He's like, let me tell you something. I think it was like Turkish. And they were like dropping him down on like a bungee jump. It was hilarious. You gotta search it up. All caps. Let me tell you something. It was brilliant. I love that video. I could watch that video like 20 times in a row. I will never do a jump like that in my life, though. I don't even know why he put himself in that position. But take a look at this right here while I had my commentary of that. I'm calling him Turkish. He's Turkish as far as I'm concerned, that Turkish man. The midpoint has already been respected in this range. We can draw this, somewhat differently, whatever. It really doesn't matter that much. But the midpoint of these parallel channels are going to be pretty important, and trading below them is bad for obvious reasons, and trading above them is good for obvious reasons, because again, it just kind of shows where the market is gravitating toward. And really, most of the time here, Bitcoin has spent in the top kind of half of this parallel channel. So if we start recovering levels like that again, then this becomes a really big, essentially kind of vertical accumulation range. And why am I saying vertical accumulation range? The reason I'm saying vertical accumulation range is that despite very recent ETF outflows, we are seeing massive adoption of these assets in crypto from players that are not retail. Retail is not buying. And these charts are fairly stable at very low levels. So that's going to be a sign of accumulation. And we've already seen signs of this. Solana is an altcoin that I've been watching for quite some time. And it's really nicely recovered above its resistance. Well, it was support, then it kind of turned into resistance, and it's recovered back above this line here. So we're seeing really nice kind of opportunities where these altcoins are falling down to logical support levels. Support levels that we've had drawn on this channel for a very long time. And levels, actually, frankly, that we've been discussing inside of BroFi as well. And by the way, this is really what BroFi is about. You know, in this market, I'm constantly looking for opportunities to make money. So are the guys inside. Guys and girls. We got a nice split, I think. Obviously, we need more girls. It's crypto. There's very, very few. But females, you will be better traders than males, by the way. I'm now approaching 9 years in this game, by the way. 9 years in a couple of months. It'll be 9 years. Which is so crazy. What the... anyway, in my 9 years of being a trader, I've met many female traders and I've met many male traders. And I've trained many female traders and I've trained many male traders. And females are better, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I can't say that they have the best results because they don't. Maybe that's a numbers issue, I don't know. But they have the most consistent results. So... you can obviously work out why that is. But we're chopping it up, discussing these things inside of the group. And we've seen some really, really nice and it's all about transformation. You won't be the same guy after you join this. That's the whole point. It's two choices. You stay where you are. You chase coins that you saw on X. You don't have a plan. You take screenshots of your P&Ls instead of actually taking profits. You don't actually withdraw. Or inside of BroFi, we're changing it up. You trade from a plan. You don't trade from a Twitter feed. You know your risk per trade. You know your risk per week. You withdraw consistently on a schedule. Intentional withdrawing. This is what we're going for. And there's no guarantee that we're going to achieve it. It really depends on you. We've got incredible resources here, even just in early access that has already... It's already produced this. It's already produced this before and after image in many, many members inside of the group. So if you want to get yourself inside, find out what that's all about. Like I said, $100 to join. That's kind of crazy. You guys are lucky we got a shit market here. That's really why this is. I mean, and by the way, interest is at an absolute low right now all over crypto. This is one of the biggest reasons I wanted to start this right now, because we've already got it. We've already got it in this fucking environment. You know, we're reading it right. We're not sensationalizing things we shouldn't be sensationalizing. You know, I have to admit, I didn't want there to be a lot of hype, but there has been hype building up in the group. I'm going to see if that's a problem. If it's a problem, we'll do something about it. But the hype is very controlled. You know, the hype is only really coming in, I feel like, when it's appropriate. And it's so, like, it's not even that crazy. You know, I've done this before. You know, these kind of trading groups. And I've been in them too. It gets carried away, but we got really good energy in here. So check it out. Top link in the description. But like I said, a lot of these coins have really started to fall down to very nice levels. And again, it's like, well, who's buying it? Because this support level is getting defended. It is. I mean, look at it. It got defended. XRP. Who's defending these support levels? It ain't retail. That much is very clear. It's not retail. So if it's not retail, and if we're printing this chart, I mean, this is known as vertical accumulation. Here, let me send to the chart so you guys actually understand what the hell you're looking at. This is known as vertical accumulation, where The price action is so strong, and this is actually what it is, by the way. This is my genuine read of the market. That the price action is so strong that while it trends up, it can't necessarily correct downwards like it usually does, because there's just real underlying bullish strength here. So instead of kind of, you know, slowly just kind of going sideways or slowly moving down, in this case, we're just kind of increasing a little bit slower. You know, and that's really what we've been seeing. You know, we're seeing a market that's doing this and then doing this, getting ready to do this again. This kind of vertical accumulation. And we've seen it before, by the way. It's actually really common on Bitcoin. It's one of the more common characteristics that Bitcoin actually produces. Take a look at this one right here. This is a really small version of the exact same thing. And it's so beautiful because with this TA, we can really look at different time frames, different events in Bitcoin's history, but because Bitcoin is Bitcoin, it does have constants. It does have variables that stay consistent, especially in terms of its character. You know, and its character is that of a market which is very irrational, very emotional, very fear-driven, very, you know, fear of missing out, fear of losing money, very fear-driven. It's really only fear. And you can really see that on this chart. It's panicked vertical accumulation leading to a pump. You just can't fucking stop this market. And it doesn't even come back down to those levels ever since then. I mean, it could. Shit, we got price targets of 20K from the bears. You know, and all the best to you guys. I hope you bid those levels if you get them. But, you know, realistically here, yeah, I don't think any of that's happening. I think that we're still in vertical accumulation. I think that this entire market cycle has been one massive uptrend. That, yeah, we got some, like, overly sensitive goons that can't tolerate a fucking 36%. Like, what fucking market are you guys in? Seriously. Like, do we know what asset we're looking at? Like, 40% drops are so normal on Bitcoin. You know, 40% right there. 40% right there. You know, and if it's not 40, it'll be like a nice 34, 35. Look at that. That's 2017. You go to the bull cycle after that. Look at the pullbacks we had inside of the bull cycle. You know, this one was absolutely massive. You just want to count this one? Sure, you could just count that. That's 60%. You know, mid bull market, like incredible rallies. We pull off a minus 55% and then we still set new all-time. Yes, I understand the new all-time highs were only marginal. They weren't much better, but we still set new all-time highs. This is a market that can, and in my opinion, should pull back by figures such as 40%. And up until this point, we didn't do that. We still haven't done that, actually. And that's why, you know, I really want to close this video off by talking about where I might be wrong. Because this is a really bearish pattern. Just on the face of it. You know, I mean, this is forming some sort of a, you know, rising channel here. And inside of downtrends, these are very bearish. And like I said, this is why we started the video off the way we started it off. If you made it this far, congratulations. Thank you very much. Smash up those likes for me. This is why I'm saying what I'm saying. Because if Bitcoin can start pushing hard from here, getting into the $100,000 range again, getting into the 100 and teens, you know, the fucking 117K level, getting into that kind of range. If Bitcoin can pull that off at this point, it breaks all of these bearish patterns. Okay, the breakout point for this pattern right here sits at like 100K. You know, if we take a little bit more time, 101. If Bitcoin hits 107, we've already broken so much of that resistance. We've already just completely shed behind so many bearish structures. There are multiple bearish structures at play right now. We will negate them. We will vaporize them. If we see a 107,000, 117,000 and beyond Bitcoin. Even above 100K, we're starting to vaporize those. And that's so important because there's been so much bearish energy weighing down on crypto. Guess what happens when that's lifted off? I was saying for years, and you guys are going to know if you were watching me, for years, with gold, that gold is being suppressed. Suppression cannot be permanent. Suppression is not something that's permanent. It's impossible to do it permanently. And eventually, there's a lot of pressure pent up here that will explode. And that is what happened to gold. And I've made a similar point multiple times with Bitcoin, and it works out. Because Bitcoin is the same. Gold is slow. Bitcoin does similar things to what gold does on much faster time frames. or so we thought. Because right now, that's not what we're getting. But that's where we are in the market. If we start pulling off better pumps from here, we are in an incredible place. We're going to be live on this channel every time there's volatility here. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you got that bell icon checked. While you're down there, get inside of BroFi right now. Now's your chance. Today's your day. Get inside. If you want to trade on some of the best platforms in the game, Bybit and Blowfin, link down in the description, are going to give you thousands of dollars to trade with when you start trading using these links in the description. And any profits that you withdraw with that free money are going to be there for you to withdraw. So check it out if you're not from a restricted region. Ladies and gents, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.